Good afternoon. This is Bob Ball from Blood and Fire Ministries, also Inside Out, which we'll talk about why we have two names in a minute. I'm Nikki Lunsford, and I'm a part of the Middletown Research Study that's researching how the churches have changed in Muncie with the exiting of all of our large industries. We're at Blood and Fire now, which is at the corner of Gilbert and Madison Street in Muncie. It's May 15th, 2017. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Thanks for talking with us. You've got some interesting perspectives to share. First question, though, I want to hear about your faith journey and how you became a pastor or a leader.
Well, thank you, Nikki. It's a pleasure to be here. My faith journey, basically, I grew up in a Christian home, and so participated in church throughout the early years of my life. My own personal faith journey really took a jump up my senior year. I had an encounter at church, at Eden Church, United Church of Christ at that time. It's Eden Community Church now. And it was a special time, and I knew I'd encountered the Lord. And then I met the lady who would become my wife, and Stacy and I spent a lot of time seeking the Lord together, and things went to the next level, and so my journey continued. And that was exciting. And then as we both graduated as teachers, and we began to have a child a year for 4 consecutive years, so we have 4 daughters and 12 grandchildren, which informs our journey now.
Yeah.
And at that point, it became clear to me that the Lord really wanted more, and so we began to engage youth ministry with Union Chapel at that time. That's when Greg and Beth Paris would have been leading a 2-station charge church, and it was a whole different picture than they're experiencing at this time in this season. And we began to come alongside them and help with the youth and learn from them, and that was the beginning of that journey. And so then in 1980, when I began teaching, it was in 1986 at the conclusion of the football season when I left teaching and coaching and became a youth pastor at Union Chapel in an occupational way. And that was the beginning of our full-time youth pastorate launch. That then, concluding that, we moved into some study, and we're going to do a church plant. And eventually we did. We thought we'd do it with the decade of harvest of the Assemblies of God. And we're redirected to align with Lester Summerall and South Bend and the LaSea Evangelistic Network. So it was one of the initial ordination groups under LaSea Ministries.
I see.
So that's a little bit of the story of how we got there. And there's a lot that's found in the midst of all that.
I don't know if you told me or Beth Paris told me, but the goals that you set out for the youth program at Union Chapel was found.
Yeah, I believe we may have mentioned that. Yeah, when we were there, we started what was called at that time Lifeline Ministries. It was the youth ministry, and we put together a booklet and pretty much laid out the vision of where the thing was going. And Beth and I had had a discussion not too long ago where she was going through her files and pulled out that manual and handed it over, and she goes, look at 180 today and look at what you wrote.
We've done
and so it was a very exciting thing, and we were aware of that, and it was very exciting just to hear that from her and see that recognition of God was up to something, and he still is.
Always, always. So how did you come to be in the position you occupy right now?
Well, we were at Union Chapel, and at that point, I went through a transition and left there, and Greg and I, Stacy and I had been discipled under Greg and Beth the whole way, had learned a phenomenal amount. The things that he taught in that season, Wednesday, Sunday morning, Sunday night, very great discipleship opportunity.
Yes.
We learned so much, and out of that, my passion for the kingdom and what it meant to take the gospel into all the world was pretty significant, and I had pretty strong, passionate opinion about what that looked like, and which we had caught quite significantly from Greg. And then I began to see things one way, and he began to see things another way. And for all the things that he had taught, the one thing that I learned in my very next season was how authority is delegated within the context of the church. So he knew he was right, and I knew I was right. And since then, under one of my incredible mentors by the name of Bob Mumford, he's in his 80s now, and he has a teaching on the 7 giants. And one of the giants that we deal with in this wonderful body we walk around in is be right. And I recognized that I was more determined to be right than I was to be sensitive to what God was really saying in that moment. And so I got to go back and apologize and say, I may have been right, but I was wrong. And so that was all part of the growth process I think the Lord takes us through before He's going to let us graduate to the next place in life.
Yep.
And so we walked those steps out. And then after spending some time in study, for over a year there in that season, then we moved into the next season and we planted a church. It was called True Destiny Ministries, and we were going to do a nice little suburban church plant.
Oh.
And so we started at home, and it grew, and we outgrew the home, and then we moved into a funeral home.
Huh.
Yeah, there's a place to launch a church. I've got stories that I won't tell you about that.
Okay.
And then we began to meet in the oddest places, and God kept drawing us downtown. At one point we met at the old softball complex, and on Sunday mornings there might be tournaments going on, and people are looking in the windows at people worshiping in the middle of that. And so it was an entertaining time, but we ended up drawn downtown, and we would meet in places that it seemed like we would set the temporary pulpit up, and there would always be a bar behind it.
Huh.
And so we're like, well, what do you do? Cover it up? What do you do? Or you just go for it. So
Life.
it was a little bit of a picture of where God was drawing us and what He began to speak to us. At some point then, we knew that we were to light right in the heart of the city, which we did. We were right across from City Hall in a building that's now a law office right by Subway. And so every place we went, it seemed like we got to clean the buildings out, take care of it, do some community development so that we'd have a place to meet. And we grew. And we grew to a decent size at one point, and then we knew we were to transition to a very missional, urban-focused, go to the least of these, the economic poor, and that changed everything. And that's when we made a transition to Blood and Fire.
That must have been scary.
It was out of our comfort zone for sure.
Way out.
But the passion and the know that we're supposed to do those kinds of things was the overriding factor to be able to go out of the comfort zone.
And you trusted. So, why Blood and Fire?
Well, the successor to Stacy and I in the youth ministry at Union Chapel was a fellow by the name of Greg Strand, who'd gone to college with Greg Paris, and they knew each other well. And he had come from most recently from Dave Reaver Ministries, and before that he'd been with the Billy Graham Association. And when Greg came to town, he and I became great friends, which none of us expected. And out of that, he was going to take the youth group down to Atlanta on a summer missions trip. And so he said, would you like to go with me on the scouting trip for that? You know all the kids, want to expose you to this, let's go down. So a half dozen of us went down on a trip and made a tour of the different venues that had been scouted out. And the last one we walked into was a place called Blood and Fire Ministries in Atlanta. David Van Cronkite was speaking, and when we walked in, Greg and I looked at each other and went, we're in the right spot. There's obviously a presence of God, and everything that was being spoken from the stage by David was everything I had been in my personal devotions and study and really pressing into the Lord about. So we knew it was a divine appointment. That was in May. In August, we went back and took over 60 kids that did an allegiance drama in the various venues, but we spent most of the week at Blood and Fire, where there were 24 of 42 of Atlanta's most desperate housing projects within a 3-mile radius of the warehouse, which was right across from the Golden Dome of the Capitol, in a 550,000 square foot warehouse that they were housing homeless in some pretty, what do I want to say, humble conditions, but when you have no place to go, just a roof over your head made all kinds of difference. And so it was a grand experience for all of us that were exposed to that. And then from August until December, we took teams from Muncie down there 2, sometimes 3 times a month until we launched a big outreach in Munciana Homes in Muncie in December of 1995 under the banner of Blood and Fire, and it was the launch of our transition that took place over the next year, where True Destiny morphed into a brand new church plant called Blood and Fire with an urban missional focus.
Did that congregation come with you?
A number of them came, and honestly, the kind of let me give a statistic that I learned years and years ago when Greg Strand and a group of us again went up to see Bill Wilson in New York, and that is that the average tenure of an urban missionary is 2.5 years. And we found that in about 2.5 years, a lot of the folks that are accustomed to church that like we've always known it were completely overwhelmed with the intensity and the level of commitment and the never-ceasing demands that are placed on you in an urban missional ministry. And so a lot of those needed to relocate to what I would call normal church.
Traditional.
Yes.
We'll say traditional church, right?
I say normal church. We have this crazy story where at one point we've never had a claim. In the middle of this situation, we'd never had an insurance claim, and our insurance carrier came to us and said, we are going to need to drop you. And I said, why? We pay you thousands of dollars and we've never had a claim. And he goes, but we've looked at this situation, and with all the variety of programs that you do, we insure churches, and we don't know how to wrap risk around what you do because you're not normal.
You're not
I said, we only insure normal churches, thus we have the kind of phrase that I have. And so eventually, without going into the details, how this played out is we found a dear friend who's now our insurance agent even now, and he basically said, I have good news and bad news. I found you insurance. It's not cheap, and the only person that I could find that would insure you is the same company that insures circuses. So Bob, I'm going to tell you, you are the circus of the church world. So that pretty much sums us up.
That. Well, what do you see as your main responsibilities? Now that can go a long way.
Well, yeah, I have
lot.
a lot of hats, and so my wife and I are the founding pastors of Blood and Fire, and so we wear that. I don't go around calling myself Pastor Bob. I tend to think of myself just as an ambassador of the kingdom. And so we know that we have a pastoral role, we have a leadership role, and we still do a lot of the most humble things that take place in the building in the way of service, because it's a startup, it's a missional ministry, and all hands are on deck. And so we provide senior leadership, we do vision casting, we do Stacy is the detail person of the two, and I'm the grand visionary, and so we have me wearing the binoculars and seeing those things that appear right here to me, but Stacy goes, they're really far off. Take your binoculars down and let's talk about how we're going to walk this thing out. So we have this great relationship on going back and forth and making sure that we have the admin covered and we have all that covered. And so there are like 20 different ministry programs that we have operated over the years out of Blood and Fire, and so we give oversight to that. Then we have our family, our daughters, our son-in-laws are all involved at one level or another. We have other core team members that are essential on providing guidance and leadership and taking responsibility and making sure the things that we do actually are able to happen.
Okay.
And then that's one hat.
Right.
And I don't know if this is a good time for this, but the other hat we wear is that out of Blood and Fire Ministries, we birthed a community development corporation called Inside Out. And so we know that for real change to happen in a community like Muncie, we believe it needs to take place in the heart of the city and flow outward. We know we've seen a lot of outside-in kind of things. We think that we're to be a bridge builder with both of these organizations, where we want to bridge those in the donut area outside to the hole in the donut in the inside. And it's been exciting to see some of the changes that Muncie is engaging in undertaking downtown in terms of development. Now what we want to do is focus on developing people and empowering them. while Blood and Fire is a very compassion-based ministry that serves the least of these, we also have done things to move towards empowerment, like our community Christmas store, where rather than giving out gifts like we started with in December of 1995, we transitioned where we generate some income and have partners, and a big one like Union Chapel that invests into that community Christmas store, and we buy brand new gifts, and we supply gifts, shopping appointments, and people come in and buy 2 gifts per child at a highly discounted rate. They'll spend $2.50 a gift for a gift that may run from anywhere from $10 to $40 in value. They're shopping, there's dignity in it, they have appointments in the store, there's wrapping station, there are other things that are available, and so it's an empowering opportunity to see the difference between what sometimes we in the church world engage in toxic charity.
Yes.
This is an opportunity for people to come in with dignity and take advantage of deep discounts at a sales store and be able to provide Christmas for their family and do it in a way where they got to choose what they were getting, they got to shop, they got to be a part of something exciting that felt more normal to like we all like to feel.
Right.
So out of that compassion unto empowerment, then Inside Out was birthed, where we want to focus on empowerment, and therefore one example of that is our premier flagship program under Inside Out Community Development Corporation. It's called Fresh Directions, Hot Meals for Kids. At this point, we have at times, but we are not directly serving the meals to most of the kids. What we're doing are trying to lift up the hands of other youth and caregiving organizations throughout the community. We know that 31.2% of the kids in Delaware County, #1 in the state in regards to child poverty, and Muncie Community Schools has 75% of their kids on free or reduced lunch, 68% free lunch.
Yes. So
significant numbers, lots of vulnerability. We're seeing 2 ODs a day in our community.
Yes.
And so that means that one out of 4 kids that are born at Ball Hospital have drugs in their system. What we're describing is a fractured family situation, and we have food insecure kids and kids living in poverty. So when those kids plug into a community center or a different program, we want to make sure that there's food there so they're not hangry. And so we're coming alongside providing a meal to them and a healthy snack that will allow them to be able to have a way to be successful and sustainable in their educational efforts.
it's a big need. So how would you characterize the condition of this church or faith community? Is it growing? Is it declining? Is it a revolving door? Thriving? Struggling?
I would describe it, some folks could describe it as struggling. I can't be the one who does that. And the reason that they might look on and say, wow, look what all they're doing, and it's amazing, and yet I know that they do it with so little. I would say that ours is a complete faith journey, because we never know where the next thing is coming from. We go out and generate funds and tell the story and do what we can, but you're always looking for more. It's the story of many not-for-profits and many missional type church organizations. There's always more to do than you have to do with. And yet, God has not only kept the doors open, but just in the first quarter of this year, in addition to all the foods that are donated and that we purchase through Second Harvest, and we do a pantry a month and serve about 250 families a month at that pantry. We do a Saturday community meal under the Blood and Fire banner. We're doing an amazing number of different programs. We've done prom dress stores, community Christmas stores, we do Anchor After School program, we do block parties, we do fall festivals, we do holiday special events, all kinds of things that go on throughout the year. And we have a basic budget that we work with. We always know it's going to take more than we can budget for. And God always makes a way, and He always provides it somehow. And it's never comfortable, but He's always there. And in this first quarter, we've seen an extra full semi-load of food come in from Feed the Children that we connected with clear back during the Hurricane Katrina days and all the subsequent disaster relief that we've done. And so they partner with us locally as well, and they sent in a semi-load of food. We just spent the last couple of weeks distributing over 2,500 sub sandwiches that came in through the Feed the Children connection, again as Fazoli's provided product, and with our commercial kitchen we're able to do a stellar job of constructing those according to the menu that's set up, and distributing those to all kinds of folks, sharing that with everything from Urban Light to the Muncie Mission to all kinds of churches locally in our neighborhood down here that are trying to help alleviate the hunger problem.
I know that there's other organizations that you haven't even mentioned yet. We'll get to some more of those. Even this weekend, you did a whole bunch more organizations. I think you said you did the post office mail delivery.
Postal workers food drive took place
Processed
yesterday. We had a team out helping process all the food that came into the distribution point, and then that is sent out to the various pantries, which was a collaborative effort that took place years ago when a number of us went to Tiny Adams at that time and said, we are shipping we're collecting all this, shipping it all to the food bank that was at that time in Madison County, in Anderson. It's now in Delaware County. And we went, and then we would help process, and then we would pay a maintenance fee to buy that food back. And we said, if we're doing all this work, why don't we work together and just take it directly from there to the various organizations and pantries that are going to distribute? So it's one victory that resulted from a collaborative effort. So we're excited about that. They, after they got done out there, brought back a truckload of about over 7,000 pounds of food. The Compass Church showed up, took care of all of that, and helped distribute it. We have it all stacked and stored away on warehouse racks and pallets, ready for distribution at our Saturday meals in our food pantry. And that was following a morning where Union Chapel came in to do a community serve day in the East Central neighborhood, of which we're a part. So we hosted that here, and we fed the volunteers, and we fed community residents, and then we cleaned up, and we prepared to serve our every Saturday evening meal that transitioned into what was next with the whole Compass effort to work on the food. So those kinds of things are always fun and exciting and challenging.
Busy, busy, busy. I think because your hierarchy is different than the normal church.
Yes.
Do you have a congregation? Do you have a congregation of volunteers and then the people that you serve, or do you consider the people that you serve your congregation?
Yes, yes, and yes.
All right.
So it's all those things. So over the years, I've picked up the obituaries and read, and people would say that their church was blood and fire and they died, and I went, isn't that curious? And they came into our community meal, and they fellowshiped with us, and they ate, and we would sit across the table, because we call our tables the circles, and we want communication around. And when there's enough volunteers, several of us will go out and just sit with folks and hang out and listen to their stories and offer whatever insight that we might feel like we're supposed to, if we're supposed to. And we have an opportunity to have a teaching moment, a ministry moment, and we're invited frequently, please pray for this. And so just sitting across the table, being listened to, fellowshipping together, and being able to ask for prayer and ask questions is perceived as church by a number of the people that come into our Saturday community meal. Not all, some just want the meal. We're like, just have a meal. We're here to love on you and help meet a need. And if your need includes spiritual food as well as physical food, we're here to help meet that need as well. It's all through love. It's not a high-pressure sales thing. We're here to help. We're here to help practically, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever way we can. We want you to experience a better life, and so we make ourselves available for that.
And I think you moved into the neighborhood, so you really could feel the pulse of what was needed. Is that true?
Absolutely. When we started, we were located downtown, but we went down and set up every Saturday in Muncie homes, and folks from different churches would gather with us as we pulled a trailer in full of barrel grills, and we would begin to barbecue winter and summer, year-round, and we would prepare a meal that was served at that time at noon on site outside the multi in the Muncie homes. Well, now that's Millennium Place. Beautiful change in the community. And when we knew the transition was going to take place, after 3 years, we relocated into this part of the city and then into this building. We moved in here in May of 1997. And so we've been here 20 years now in this location. And the building slowly but surely has morphed my vision glasses on, I see a lot more change to come. But it's come a long way, and for the folks that have been here over the long haul and come back, they go, oh yeah, wow, okay, that's different.
That's different.
So that's exciting for us, but let's see, where was I going with that?
Well, we were talking about the traditional, the normal church versus what you do. Do you have a congregation? Like, could you put a number on them? Your congregation?
I could, and it wouldn't be very accurate depending on who you asked, or it'd be really accurate depending on who you asked. So we serve about 150 plates, and sometimes that on a Saturday meal, and sometimes that's because there's 150 people, and sometimes there's fewer than that, and we hand out seconds and provide carry-out plates for those that are not able to get out. So we always serve that 150, and usually we're pretty close to that. Everybody gets a plate. Out of that 150, I would say with the point to ponder and the responsiveness, there's probably 100 people that come in here and they really want to participate in hearing what we're sharing from up front. We don't require anybody to sit in on anything that we share. They can come in just for the meal at 4:30, or they can come in for fellowship at 4 and hang around for 15 minutes and take a break, or they can sit tight and we'll share announcements and then share a point to ponder. And so we offer a discipleship message, and I would say easily 100 of those folks, while they may be engaged in some other churches as well, they're intentionally here because they're excited to hear what's being talked about. And there's lots of interaction and questions asked and prayer requests and ministry that results from that. So from our big tent group,
Right.
there's easily 100 folks that probably are here week in and week out. There are many more than that are in and out that would still include themselves in that group size. So it's a very ambiguous number. Then we have probably 50 folks that are regulars that are in and out in terms of their participation in the ministries that we do. And then there's probably about 30 of us that are core team that are responsible for various things within the ministry. And so that is way different than where we started, because honestly, the burnout level, as I mentioned earlier,
Right.
is significant for this kind of thing. I would say out of those folks that are in that initial core team that were there, that are here now, they're in for the long haul.
Are they paid or are they volunteered?
Stacy gets something, I get something,
Right.
Jessica gets something. There's some support generated by Dawn, and she gets a little stipend, but mostly we all just give ourselves as volunteers, or we do it on the minimal amount we can take so that we can be faithful to what we've been called to.
To give more. Okay. Recent research has suggested that some churches have had difficulty attracting and keeping members.
Mm-hmm.
So, how does that apply to you?
Well, besides the normal things
Yes.
that all churches, be you traditional, non-traditional, or whatever, face in regard to attracting and retaining members in the culture that we find ourselves all living in here, there are additional challenges when you're a high-intensity serve organization that are providing not only ministry opportunities, but you're providing social services. There are a number of things that we can attract some funders to come to simply because not in the name of Jesus we do everything, but not everything we do is directly anything more than we're meeting real needs of people, like they're hungry, so we feed them. And so the intensity will burn people out, as I mentioned. It also makes it difficult for people to know how to come and participate in that, because a lot of we have fellowship group, we have teaching times, we have worship times where we combine with other folks once a month as well. And so the River Valley Fellowship and Blood and Fire get together to do a combined worship at least once a quarter and often once a month. And so there are lots of different ways that we try and work together. And those are, I guess we almost look at our church as a micro church kind of thing. So we have our larger community meeting that has that big tent. We have our core team that meets afterwards, and we do some more teaching and some more prayer and share and fellowship. Then we also have this shared thing back and forth between between folks that we worship with, like River Valley. Then we have all of our partners that come in, and a lot of our fellowship takes place in the context of mission. So great conversations across the table sorting food, great conversations while you're back there filling up bags of groceries at a pantry. It's a fast-paced, wear you out kind of thing. Not everyone is up to or able to do that. So that even limits the kind of folks that we're going to attract. Some are going to be drawn to that kind of thing, probably fewer in number. Some are going to be repelled by it, so it creates additional challenges.
I see. So aside from membership, what are key challenges facing this community right now?
This community of faith,
This community of faith and where you're located.
it's always a resource issue with us, because there are things we know we're called to do, and God always makes a way to do them. But there are things that we know that if we had additional resources, we could expand that or be even more effective in how we go about it. And so you learn how to make do, and God always makes a way, and He always blesses it, and you stand back and go, wow, that had to be God, because this is what I found. It's always good to plan, but we know that probably the one thing that's a constant with Blood and Fire is everything changes in the midst of everything, because there's so many uncontrollable factors. Even when I speak and do different things, I get to deal with things that traditional churches are not dealing with. When somebody that walks in is off their meds and they're acting out, or they're on unprescribed meds,
Yes.
and they're acting out. And so you get to deal with that and work to keep a safe environment that feels safe for everybody in here. And you're trying to speak and share 10 to 15 minutes on the good news, and you get to deal with some incredible situations that may walk in the door. So those are not comfortable things for anybody to want to come in and be a part of, but it's where the rubber meets the road, and it's where we live. And so we still get to influence and impact and help a whole lot of people, spirit, soul, and body.
So you mentioned resources. That's probably from this side of the seats. That's your biggest challenge. What about out there? What are you seeing over the last 20 years that has changed in the population that comes to you?
The number of economic poor, I believe, is going up. The number of folks that deal with challenges and food insecurities. I would say 2 addictions a day, or 2 overdoses a day, is an elevated number over what we've seen in the past. So whether you're talking about drugs, whether you're talking about poverty, it's not going down, and the number of people that are near poverty seems to be expanding as well. And so they're working, they're doing what they can to make ends meet, and they're coming up short, and they need to be able to access some services to help get them by. Besides the folks that really need help all the time, there are folks that need it occasionally. And so those are 2 different populations, and sometimes the one doesn't want to be seen as the other. And so finding a way to provide a dignified way for them to be able to come and be a part means that we want to engage everybody relationally. So how we even do a food pantry is different than many, because people will line up all around the building when it's time to come in. But when they come in here, we have the tables set up, we're providing drinks and snacks, we're trying to play some music, create opportunities where I'm wandering around, engaging with people, handing out snacks, having a fun time talking, responding to prayer requests, and doing whatever, meeting people right where they are. What we want to do is we want everybody to know this is a place where you can come and be comfortable and be recognized and be welcomed, and we'll help you with whatever we have that you may need. And it doesn't matter who you are, and if you need it desperately, or you just are going to be a lot better off if you get a little help. We think if there's a relationship and you can create an environment of love and a welcoming atmosphere, it can help allay some of the fears and anxieties that people have on being labeled.
Yes. Well, you're sitting here, and everybody around you, how do they know to come to you? I know when you first started, didn't you send volunteer, we'll say ambassadors, out with a bag of canned goods, and they went to knocked on strangers' doors and said, how may I pray for you, and here's some food?
Yep. Blood and Fire here with groceries and prayer. And
yeah, and so how has that evolved? How do you reach that wider community?
Well, the way we do that now is I believe we have a reputation. And so we're a part of a number of different networks, and so when people call 211 or whatever, or through Edible Muncie, that's a collaborator and a convener of different not-for-profits, there are a variety, the citywide church network at one point in the day, there are different groups of people in the faith base and in social service organizations that are very aware of who we are and what we've done for, it will be 22 years this December. Just under Blood and Fire, and we were doing that for 3 years under the previous label, so we've been in the heart of the city for 25 years doing the kinds of things that we're doing here. And so we have moved in intentionally to incarnate the presence of Christ in the heart of the city, and so we have a half dozen different families that live very nearby here that are a part of this core team and do the things that we do. And so that's with intentionality. So just being in the neighborhood and front porch ministry and walking through the streets or riding our bikes in the summer or whatever, engaging things, and the high profile place of being located on Madison Street with some of the traffic, the people that go by that know us and have heard of us recognize this is the place where you come for that. Now, all those things can be helped as we continue to make changes and be able to do messaging signs out front and a number of different things that'll help communicate what's going on inside here.
Part of that binocular, the
Yes.
big vision.
Yes.
Well, in the last few decades, which you've been a part of, Muncie has experienced considerable economic and social change. So in what ways have these changes impacted your church and faith community?
You want to say that again? I was distracted.
So as Muncie's lost a lot of their large corporations and a lot of their leaders, we've had a change in the economic and social situation in Muncie. As you said, poverty's going up. What ways have these changes impacted you here?
Well, I would say that the change is, in the for-profit world, you're always looking to grow your footprint in your reach. You want to grow, and you want a larger share of the market. For us, a larger share of the market is bad. It's good, but it's bad. We're glad to reach more people, but if there are more people to reach and we reach more people, that means that there's a problem. So we're glad to help solve the problem, but it's both good and bad, and so it's a little bit of the reverse. And so here's another challenge I've come to in dealing with for-profit, not-for-profit, that I think speaks to this, and that is, in the for-profit world, when I deliver according to my mission and provide a service or provide a good, then the end result is that I'm going to profit from that and be able to grow my business. In my case, in our case, in the not-for-profit case, when we're successful, my treasury just went down instead of up. Now it creates the opportunity to go out and tell the story for people to fill your treasury so you can do those kinds of things. But when you live in a community that's population has shrunk, that large industry has moved out, there's an exodus, the need is going up, the income level is going down, the population is going down, the challenges that we face in all the areas from education and all around, they're all in our face, and we have 618 not-for-profits all desperately trying to meet needs and vying for the same pool of resources. And so I would say the challenge grows because the need grows, and the need for resources to meet the need grows, but the resources that are available to meet the need hasn't grown, I don't believe.
Has it declined?
I would say probably it
With the exodus
has.
of those leaders and those businesses?
The people with the larger incomes that are in a position to be able to invest into the kinds of things that we're providing, those numbers are really declined. And so, yes, I believe it has influenced it that way. Now, we have an incredibly giving community. The philanthropic presence in the community is huge. We have a very strong community foundation locally. We have Ball Brothers Foundations and George and Francis and all these others, but we also have phenomenal need and a huge number of not-for-profits, all trying to meet this increasing need.
Well, did you feel the exodus of those companies?
Well, yes.
Or were you kind of
we actually,
towards the
many of them
foundations
had
already.
already begun to move out when we birthed. So it was birthed out of what we heard from the Lord and the obvious need that was present. And so while there have been others that have continued to go, some of those great big ones were really moving out even in front of us, or had already made plans to move out. We've been here 22 years
So
and
in
25
essence,
downtown.
could you be a product of the Exodus?
Well, I believe this was birthed out of God saying, look at the need, it's all in front of you. Go
Which
meet the need.
happened when the
Yes.
corporations left.
As it began to go, the need, we saw the need was rising and it was going to rise more. So we're responding to what we think God's saying to us, but we're looking going, well, yeah, he sees just like we see.
Right. Could you give me some specific examples? You've already given me some of more programs that your church has initiated to respond to the community's economic dislocation. It sounds like this whole organization is part of that.
This really is just one big mission center, and we thrive because what we do is informed by our faith. And so we are a faith community. We are a local church. We're a missional church. We're a micro church. It's a little group of us that are committed to what God's called us to express the love of Jesus in fulfilling the mission that we have to go to the least of these and to make a difference and share love and share life that's found in Jesus in practical ways, and invite them into community, reconnect them maybe with a community of faith, a church that they've known in the past. That's happened. Unbelievable numbers of times that we've seen people that are down and out that have come back in. We prop them back up. We see God move in their lives. We see healing come. They're plugged in here, and they go, and they're always talking about back in the day, once things were different. We go, well, go there and reconnect with those people and say, look what's happened. I'm back. And so for us, this is about kingdom. It's not about growing Blood and Fire Ministries into a bigger and bigger church. It's about fulfilling His call in our lives, mandate to be influencers and to love on people and to share the good news of hope that's found in Jesus. And so we find all kinds of practical ways to do that. We've got all kinds of programs. One of the things that we started a number of years ago was a prom dress store. And that prom dress store ended up rolling out 6 different prom dress stores. And so
In the community?
In the community. And part of the way that happened is we had a group of marketing students that came in and they were looking for a project, and so we put them on this to help market this thing. And so that was great and it really worked. And then they went back and shared that with their department, and the department went to other places and said, can we help you with a project? And they said, well, we don't know exactly what we would have you do. And they go, well, we did a prom dress store over here. We could do one of those for you. And so if it were all about us just controlling the market share, we would be really bummed. But the truth of it is we just want the need met. So we were able to see a bunch of spin-offs like that. We finally have now focused in that food's our primary thing, whether it's community meals, hot meals going out to different places. Our focus on food allows us to rifle down a little bit. And so we've just closed and had a sale and then donated all of our prom dresses to Southside Middle School that's going to be able to utilize those dresses and have a prom dress store. And we're focused on food and making changes that are going to help us to reach more people more effectively with the resources and assets that we now have.
What are some new things you're getting ready to start? What are some things you're seeing in the future?
Well, we know that as we're looking at a 5 and 10 year plan and moving towards succession plans as I continue to age, and I turned 60 in October, and so we know that we want to look at 5 years and what's it going to look like. How are we going to identify those that are going to carry the mission on in both organizations, with Blood and Fire and with Inside Out? And so it looks somewhat different in each of those. And so we know that we want to develop, I liken it this way, we feel like that we picture Blood and Fire as a bird. There's an old expression, chase the wild goose, mentioning the Holy Spirit. And so as we're trying to just follow what the Holy Spirit's saying, we know that there are 2 wings to who we are. One is the worship wing and the community and that faith-based internal feeding the right things on the inside of us. And the other wing is our community outreach and what we're doing to reach out to the broad community and love on people and meet real need. And we know that for some time now that we've been kind of circling. And that's because one wing is stronger than the other. And that's been all right because we've been circling right around the heart of our city, really reaching out missionally. But we know for the future that as we're praying, we're looking for ways to develop the other wing so that so when it's time to go and head in a straight line for a while, we can do that. And so we want both wings to be very strong and very vibrant so we can navigate wherever the Lord takes us.
Does it help you when you get involved with all these other organizations in the city? Are there some more organizations that you haven't mentioned? Because I think you've worked with First Pres.
First Presbyterian Church is an example, and they're plugged in through Inside Out and the Fresh Directions program. So our kitchen here operates 5 days a week, 4 with the Fresh Directions Hot Meals program, a 5th day with the Blood and Fire Community Meal, and then 1 day a week we actually relocate our services, and we say we give our kitchen a Sabbath, and we head over to First Pres and utilize the kitchen and all the folks there, and they're able to utilize an asset that they have and the people that they have to come alongside and partner with us, and they partnered financially as well as providing the space, and so we produce meals there. We have all kind. Common Way helped invest into our community kitchen and continue to support us. Union Chapel has been a huge partner with us. Where honestly, they poured who knows how much total, but just through Blood and Fire Ministries, there's been over $1 million that's come through Blood and Fire Ministries from Union Chapel into the heart of the city to make a difference in the lives of the most vulnerable people in the community. So we had, Agape back in the day. We can go around. The Compass Church, there was Selma. And there are churches all around the community that some were able to support financially, others send volunteers, others just join with us when we're doing special events out somewhere. So we're sharing meals and resources and have collaborated with the Garden at Gethsemane that now has an additional satellite, which is the Garden at Main Street that's a block from my house and about 4 blocks from here. And so we love to partner with them. There are a couple of organizations that have moved in to express themselves there with Faith Builders and others. And so there's a lot more informal collaboration going on than I think people are aware of.
It sounds like it. Do you deal anything at all with Christian ministries?
We do. We at times we share information back and forth.
Okay.
We serve some of the same people, and if we have questions about different individuals, at times if there's a concern, we'll call and give a heads up. And it's not a fun thing, but we just had a call that came in and said, we just had someone that's really dealing with bed bugs, and we know they love to come to your community meal. We just want you to have a heads up that we'd hate to see everybody and everything you're doing infected because they're really thick. Well, but please don't, we don't want to offend anybody. We want to get them help. We're trying to help. We know you're trying to help. But that's just a practical kind of sharing thing that goes on between folks in a very secure kind of way, just to help people not have more problems to deal with.
Good. How about citizenship? Are you able, it sounds like you bring people up, try to heal them, love them, fill their cup. How does that align with cultivating citizenship?
From my perspective, and this is again the influence of Bob Mumford, and it's part of why we call the name of our Community Development Corporation Inside Out. Not only does real change in the city, I believe, take place from the heart of the city outward, though it takes in and out both. I really believe that real change in any human being takes place from the inside out. So the way I look at it is the love of God that was shed abroad in my heart by the Holy Spirit when I received Christ was a divine seed of agape that was planted on the inside. And as I value that seed, cultivate that seed, water that seed, it grows and flourishes and begins to bear fruit. And there's a scripture that talks about a passage in Exodus where Moses asked the Lord to show him his glory. And the Lord's response, there are different aspects of glory, But the way God chose to self-reveal to Moses looked at arguably 7 different strands of what I call DNA. And those strands of DNA that reveal the glory of God are all character-based. And so this is my conviction, that when we share life and love and share Jesus and someone responds and they receive that, there's a seed in them that will change them when they honor that seed and bless it and water it, and it will grow and it will bear fruit and character will change. It's curious to me that every time the word agape, and in the Greek the word for love, is used in the New Testament, it's behavioral. And so if we really respond to the love of God that's manifested in Christ, invading our lives and loving us and forgiving us and giving us hope in a future, then the result is that our character is going to change. And character is the foundation of a citizen. And so citizenship is based on character qualities. And so if I'm going to be thrifty and hardworking and giving and sharing and think the best of everybody else, those are all character issues that are found in the divine seed of agape, which is Christ in us. And so when people receive Jesus, from the inside out, that seed changes them, transforms them, and as we mature and grow over the long haul and become more like Jesus, we're going to become better people, better citizens, and it's going to be good for everybody.
So there's a strong connection. Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you have anything else you'd wish to add?
I just know that what Stacy and I are privileged to do, to lead an incredible group of people and serve alongside them and loving on people that now come in and access services sometimes and benefit from whatever it is that we have going on, are now active participants in helping themselves and helping others. And that seems to be what community should be all about. And so as much as we faced incredible challenges, and it can be exhausting physically, spiritually, emotionally in what you're doing, I wouldn't trade anything, because we've obeyed what the Lord put in our heart to do, and we've been blessed to be able to do it for a long time. And so to see other people catch that, folks that are here, folks that are in other churches that have carried programs. I mean, you've got Gladys Mina from Kenya that comes in here and was a part of a church that now she pastors, and we've been able to, she came and was a part of our original outreaches in Muncie homes, and now at Morning Star, she carried on what Bob Ewert started, and they do that over in that particular neighborhood.
So she's at Morning Star.
She's at Morning Star, and so she was a part of it here, and they do the same thing there. That there are all kinds of different tentacles that go out from what God did to start something here that's branched out in all kinds of directions, and others have caught it, and they've done it. They've been taught it. They now taught it. It happens in all kinds of ways. And then with Ball State's presence here, we've been blessed to be able to have students that have come in. You take Mark and Angie as a couple that came in here, and they were, but one was a soccer player and the other a volleyball player, and wonderful athletes and wonderful people, and were a part of Crew and Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and came down here and sat in on teachings that we did on the Divine Seed, and went through things and engaged all kinds of activities and things. And they went to Indianapolis and caused a youth crusade, the Crew to flourish, and now they're up in Michigan, and his dream as a hockey fan was to start a ministry where it would affect high school, college, and professional hockey players. That thing's growing and happening there, and we're able to see that what they invested here and what we were able to share with them, and see it go out, and it literally goes to the nations out of a little place in the heart of downtown Muncie, just serving people as best we can with what we have. It's kind of this is how my friend Mark Roy, that's Blood and Fire in San Antonio, says, you know, we're a ministry that's just like the little boy with a sack of lunch, and we just take this little thing that we have and we offer it to the Lord. He takes it, He blesses it, He breaks it, He multiplies it, and the impact is far greater than we would have ever dreamed of. That pretty much sums up who we are and what we're about.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikki.